If you're not out of the bed yet, then what are you waiting for? It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on 1690 WVON.
Every day you're walking by and I can see how you shine. Here I am alone with nothing but a dream that you are mine. Just exactly what I'll do, I don't know, baby, but I gotta find a way to reach. Tell me what I gotta do to get to your house. Tell me where I gotta go to be with you. Tell me what I gotta say to speak to your heart. Tell me what I need to know tonight.
Keep your eyes on the road and both hands on the steering wheel. We will not be held responsible for any accidents. It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
The Audio Genius.
Get in on the conversation with Rufus Williams and the Morning Show at 591-1690. We are the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Good morning, and welcome to Tuesday. It is the 26th of May, the year 2026. It's the Rufus Williams Show. I'm Rufus Williams, and as always, thrilled, delighted, and excited to be here with you this morning, and so appreciative to each of you for waking up with Rufus. The team is all in place, but importantly, I have time to talk to anybody because waiting for us to speak this morning is none other than Mayor Brandon Johnson. Mayor Johnson, good morning, and welcome back to WVON.
Hey, good morning, Rufus, and thanks for having me back, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome anytime. We look forward to you joining us on whoever's show it is. So I certainly look forward to you getting up early and getting in with us. Did you have a reflective Memorial Day?
I did. I'm often humbled by the job, right? And when you are commemorating in a very meaningful way the contributions that our people have made and service members, the sacrifices that the women and men of our community have made for the liberation of the entire globe, it is always a time to honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Amen to that. And it's important, as you see, the weather was great yesterday. Everybody's moving around, everybody's doing everything, but the real emphasis of the day can never be forgotten. So thank you for that. And we made sure that we picked it up here. Thinking about all these things, Mayor, you recently hit your 3rd year anniversary on May 15th. Let's begin there. Talk about how these 3 years have been. Have they gone fast? Have they gone slow? What have been some of the accomplishments and learnings that you've had in these 3 years?
Well, they certainly have gone fast. Now would be remiss if I did not just give a special shout out to the class of 2026. I dropped my son off at Kenwood Academy his freshman year 4 years ago, just before I made my announcement. And today with his other classmates, the Kenwood Broncos are graduating today, and so many other CBS. I'll be delivering the commencement speech at my son's high school and of course at CBS. So thank you to all the parents and the staff, the administrators that have worked so hard to surround our young people and to ensure that they can now take that next step in their next chapter of their lives. And so now here we are, 3 years later, I'm, shoulder deep into building the safest, most affordable big city in America. And Rufus, if you remember when I was running, and you were a part of that smorgasbord, if you will, of community town halls and debates, and community safety was a top issue, right? And since I've been in office, crime has continued to decline. In fact, last year we had the fewest amount of homicides in 60 years. And look, one homicide, one shooting is still one too many. But at a time in which, this is a challenge, right? Because of the disinvestment that's coming from the federal government, cutting the ATF budget by 30%, cutting off community violence intervention work by over $800 million. We've had to really, pull, our resources together to continue to drive violence down in the city of Chicago.
Well, let's first of all, congratulations on your son and the graduation and your speaking there. This is the time of year that I really love, because it is the time that we do honor these accomplishments of the young people and their families that got them there. And I just got back from New Iberia celebrating my grandniece's high school graduation, so it is a big deal for all of them. So should be fun to be there and be speaking at your son's graduation, which makes it. Look, don't embarrass your son, man.
Man, I'm trying. Listen, I was practicing my speech last night. He said, "Dad, you cried there the entire time that you practiced. Please get yourself together."
It should be memorable on so many levels. Where's he going? What's next for him?
He's going to Eastern Illinois, Rufus. He's a smart a boy coming into his madness, and he's learned over the years of watching me as an elected leader. He realized that the people who really run the world are those who have accounting and finance degrees. So he's going to study accounting and finance, and he's going to play soccer over there, Division I mid-major. Very proud of him, man. Raised on the west side of Chicago, playing in the public league. There aren't too many examples of Black boys on the west side playing in the public league, getting the chance to get to play soccer. There's only 4 Americans on his team. Every other player on the Eastern Illinois team are all from different countries. So I'm very proud of him and fully expect him to have success, just like I'm rooting for every other kid that's coming out of high school.
Indeed. Congratulations to him, and congratulations to your family and the entirety of all those who are graduating from our schools this year. You hit on so many things right there in your first comments, Mayor. Let's talk about safety. During this weekend, my wife and I took a long walk over to the lake and down the lakefront yesterday. I live in Lincoln Park. So, the diversity there, the demographics were a bit different than some of the other beaches that we go to further on the south side. But I did hear, one, that we had less violence this Labor Day, this Memorial Day, than other holidays. But then we also hear about the teen takeovers. We heard about officers being harmed. We heard about a shooting yesterday. You get the real. What really did happen this weekend? What's happening this year? How are we doing as it relates to violence now?
Yeah, well, it's all the above. I mean, listen, if there's one act of violence is one too many. Even with the positive trends that we are experiencing, those numbers don't apply to individuals who have fallen victim to violence. And it's something that breaks my heart every day. I'll just be, again, completely vulnerable because this is family. Friday, a 74-year-old man was shot. Right now, one of the suspects is his grandson. There was a 2-year-old who got access to a gun, and the 2-year-old shot himself with a gun and is no longer with us, right? I mean, these are tragedies that do not necessarily make it into the headlines, but these are the experiences that I have every single day. These are the calls that I get every day. And as much as it's a tragic, it does drive me that much more to get illegal weapons off the streets and to make sure that we're holding people accountable, but that we're also creating opportunities. And this past weekend, over the 4-day period, yes, we did set ourselves apart from other administrations and how Memorial Day has gone traditionally, and yet we still have had these gatherings that, quite frankly, Rufus, that they're not all teenagers, man. And I just think it's important that we don't allow this narrative to suggest that somehow that the folks who are gathering are all underage. They're not. The 18-year-old the incident that you were speaking of, where the alleged 18-year-old ran their vehicle into a crowd and injured several officers, that individual was not in violation of a curfew. And yet their act caused harm and was incredibly reckless and dangerous. And so what we have worked to do is to prevent these gatherings from happening to the best of our ability, right? When we get word of them, we deploy, we intercept, we intervene. But in some instances, like the one that happened going into Sunday morning, there were students apparently who after prom were hanging out. There were adults out there as well. My son went to prom. He was not out at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can tell you that. And these gatherings can be dangerous. And in this case, it certainly was. And so as much as we have worked to intervene, to intercept, to prevent these gatherings from happening, I still need the support of all of Chicago, right? Because it's not just policing alone. We are enforcing the law. We are enforcing curfew. We are, dispersing crowds if they are dangerous. And the superintendent has the authority to do that. And, I confirm, his authority to do that. But in too many instances, you have teenagers that are intermingled with adults in these gatherings that are unauthorized that have led to some of the dangerous encounters that too many people are experiencing.
When we start to look at this, we talked yesterday about teen takeovers. We talked yesterday about some of the other issues. And one of the ones I pointed out, or I was asked about when I was out of town, was what happened back in November when these children, 10 to 13-year-olds, attacked this 9-year-old and his mom and his daughter, his sister, down on the far south side. The question that comes in all this is when and how do we truly hold parents responsible for what their children do? What can we do that makes it better beyond saying and knowing that they should be responsible for their children? But what else can we do that reinforces that fact?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look, I still think it's twofold. It's definitely opportunity. We do have to create better spaces for young people, but we also have to be very honest about the level of trauma that people are living in the midst of. And we have to, all of our systems have to be held accountable. It's our government, it's, faith community, the business community, and of course our parents. Look, Rufus, there are laws in the books, right? Just like there are laws in the books that say that you shouldn't shoot someone, and people still do it, right? Yeah. And so I guess what I'm offering today is, as much as I know that, accountability is a mechanism that has to be used and enforced to deter people from bad behavior, and certainly from dangerous and harmful behavior. It's really going to take a concerted effort of all of us to work within our systems of care to create stronger places of accountability. And so that's, our community-based organizations, our businesses, government, all of us have to come together to ensure that we're not just holding people accountable and enforcing the laws that are in the books. And we have to do that, but if we believe that incarceration is the answer, Rufus, we did that in the 90s, right? And we had more people in jail than any other country on the planet. And we had, and you remember, 800, 900 people being killed every year, right? And so I want, this is a very sobering moment, quite frankly, because there aren't any easy answers. And to just point the finger at one entity or one individual or one politician, or one, bad actor, it's not going to get us there, to your point. And so, yes, enforcing law, and what we have seen over the last 3 years, let's take Austin, for instance. More young people have been hired in the Austin neighborhood than any other community. And we saw a decline in shootings and homicides by 30%. Auburn Gresham, anywhere from 28 to 66% in reduction. There were 976 kids who were hired there. Roseland, we saw a reduction in shootings by 39%. We saw a reduction in homicides by 100% in Roseland. 100% reduction last year. And there were 966 14 to 24-year-olds that were hired. North Lawndale, that's your hood, 867 young people hired from that community. And you had a reduction in 50% in shootings and 66.7% in homicides. What I'm saying is there are no easy answers, but what we do know is that the safest communities in America have one thing in common. They invest in people. I get it. We want people to be held accountable. People should be punished for harming and wreaking havoc in our communities. But when we talk about what works, there's clear evidence over the last 3 years since I've been there. We've increased youth summer employment by 55.6%. And those very communities, Austin, Auburn, Gresham, Roseland, South Shore, North Lawndale, all of them experienced reduction in shootings and violence. I think there's a direct correlation there between investing in our people, accountability, and creating safer communities. And there's no administration in modern history that can say that they oversaw the city of Chicago at significantly historic lows in violence. But also, by the way, more people are visiting our city than any other time in the history of our city. And we have the busiest airport in the entire world. So there's obviously value in people coming to our city. People want to come. They are coming. We're the only city that has experienced population growth. The only mayor in the last decade that can speak to that, right? And so it's because of these critical investments. There's a lot of work to do. Don't get me wrong. I know what I inherited, right? In 2022, there was 800 people that were killed from gun violence, man. That's just horrific. And we've cut it in half since I've been in office.
Yeah, no doubt. And these things, these teen takeovers, as I do research, are not this is not only Chicago that this is happening. This is happening in cities across the country.
No, you're absolutely right, Rufus. They're actually all over the world. And you're seeing these trends. And I think that's why I think there's something else that's going on here, because there are teenagers all over the world that are gathering in these large spaces. And, you know, I was just talking with the mayor of Detroit. I know what she's dealing with. Talking with the mayor in D.C., what she's dealing with. And if you listen to what she's saying the same thing. It's accountability and it's opportunity. If you look at what's going on in Atlanta, Andre Dickens is dealing with it there. But this is happening in cities across the globe. And look, I'm confident that if we all come together and, again, create opportunity and hold people accountable, that the decline that we're seeing in shootings, the declines that we're seeing in homicides, we'll see better engaged spaces for our young people, and you'll see less of these, dangerous and unauthorized gatherings from taking place.
Indeed. I want to shift, Mayor, before we run out of time, to a couple of other things. One, when last we talked, not here, but when we talked at City Club, we talked about some of the changes that were happening in your administration, and that those things continue to happen. One that we often talk to here is Dr. Ige. We relied on her. I didn't see anything that suggested that any of the information that came out was troubling. There was some other things that may have caused her to change from being in your administration. But is there any concerns about any of the information that we rely on coming out of the city that changes because of these changes in personnel?
Yeah, and listen, I don't, Rufus, I don't really dig into personal issues. What I will say is that, the time that Dr. Ige was here, she helped, oversee a very tumultuous time in our world's history, from the migrant mission to measles outbreaks that, we worked hard to prevent from spreading. I'll give it an exclusive breaking news here on WVON, but on Wednesday, I'm proud to report tomorrow. I'm going to report that the life expectancy in Chicago has increased, and the life expectancy gap between Black Chicago and white Chicago has decreased. And I'm going to speak more pointedly on Wednesday about some of the things that we've done through our public health, through community safety, that continues to create stronger opportunities for our people to live in safer and more affordable communities. But the time in which, Dr. Ige served, I'm grateful for her leadership.
Thank you for that. And certainly I have a lot of respect for Dr. Ige. So good to hear that, and good to hear what happened there. Good to know that this the gap is decreasing. Now, are you going to give that talk, Mayor, from the plane like the dude in Washington does as you're on your way to see the Pope?
Man, let me just tell you, man, with this long weekend that I had and all this emotion that I'm dealing with my oldest going off to college, man, this might be the best sleep I might get. Will be on the airplane. But Titus already took shots at me. By the way, as soon as he picked up the phone, he just starts yelling at the phone, "Go White Sox! What's going on with your Cubs?" I'm saying that with the Pope, I'm going to have some very serious conversations about a number of issues. Not to mention the fact that he is formally, acknowledge the harm that slavery caused and the role that the church played in it. But I'm certainly going to talk about giving a blessing to the South Side and the North Side so that our teams are in the playoffs come this fall, man. But it's a real true honor. I was with, Mother Jackson on Sunday after we went to St. Benedict African Church there on the South Side. And she shared just some ideas around how Reverend would approach this. So I'm going to do my best to channel, the great, late Reverend Jesse Jackson. And one of the things I'm going to talk to him about is how we bring the pulpit and the pen together. His pulpit, my executive authority to really not just shine a light on the conditions that, people are experiencing around the globe, but how do we create transformation so that the least of these are taken care of in our society.
Such an honor to be able to be there and be with him. I know we're well past time, but I have to ask you this next question because I don't know when you're going to come back and talk to me again. So I try to get it all in. But we are now getting into the throes of the election of a Chicago Public School Board, the first fully elected board for this city. Given that no matter whether the mayor has control or not, the city is going to be gauged about how our schools are doing.
That's right.
What will your involvement be in these upcoming school board elections?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, it's interesting. Rufus, Mayor Harold Washington supported an elected school board until he became mayor. And it's well documented, right? And I'm the first mayor in the history of Chicago to actually hold to that value. I do believe in democracy, particularly the time in which the Voting Rights Act has been gutted. So I think the more we can give our folks an opportunity to set the direction of our future, particularly our young people and our families, the better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to lay out the vision. Rufus, two quick things. Three, I released the largest tip surplus in the history of Chicago to protect our public schools. No other mayor can say that they gave $500 million to protect our Blacks to the Success program, to make sure that we're protecting our special education, of which, students with IEPs that continues to grow. But second thing is we're going to need the school board to fight alongside of me in Springfield for progressive revenue, man. The fact that the dominance of this legislative session has been around how do you protect the property taxes of billionaires and corporations at a time in which the Trump administration is literally gutting every single public accommodation that we have fought for. It's just mind-blowing to me. So that's the second thing. We got to fight for progressive revenue, a billionaire's tax, digital ad tax, all that's important. And then finally, I'm going to continue to lay out the vision around sustainable community schools. This is a model that, I embraced in the last teacher's contract. We expanded it to almost 40 schools. Dyett High School, for instance, is a sustainable community school. Folks might remember that I went on a hunger strike to keep that school open, and now that school has produced state champions, right? So between sustainable community schools, between, making sure that we're fully funding our schools, and then to make sure that, we're working in Springfield to do that. That's the role that I'm going to continue to play. And I'm going to encourage everyone to get involved in the school board races and then hold those school board members accountable. But even more importantly, help those school board members secure the funding from Springfield. The city of Chicago is due $1.6 billion right now at a time in which they're trying to figure out how to, give the Bears $4 billion over the course of 45 years. It just doesn't make any sense. But that's the role I'm going to continue to play as the first and only mayor to ever send their children to public schools. This is imperative to me as a former public school teacher, as a beneficiary of public education. I'm going to fight to ensure that our ancestors' dream becomes realized.
Mayor, never enough time to talk about all the things that we have to talk about, but we certainly appreciate the time that you share with us. Congratulations on your son. Safe travels to visit with the Pope. And you don't need to produce my show, but let him know that if he wants to call in, we'd love to have a conversation with him.
I most certainly will. That was pretty dope, wasn't it? All right, thanks, Rufus.
Be well.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. And with that, let's find out I'm way behind everything. So let's catch up, beginning with Annette in the news.
More of the morning show with Rufus Williams coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Another summer-like day in Chicago as temperatures climb into the 80s once again. Good morning. I'm Annette Flournoy, and here's what's happening. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is about to travel to Rome to meet with the Pope before leaving. He spoke exclusively with WVON's Rufus Williams this morning. One main topic, Memorial Day weekend violence and teen gatherings. He says one of the challenges is that all of the individual causing chaos is not underage.
Where the alleged 18-year-old ran their vehicle into a crowd and injured several officers. That individual was not in violation of a curfew, and yet their act caused harm and was incredibly reckless and dangerous. And so what we have worked to do is to prevent these gatherings from happening to the best of our ability, right? When we get word of them, we deploy, we intercept, we intervene. But in some instances, like the one that happened going into Sunday morning, there were students apparently who after prom were hanging out. There were adults out there as well.
Later this morning, the 18-year-old suspect the mayor spoke about is expected in court. Rashard Johnson is accused of driving the car that plowed into a group of Chicago police officers during a massive teen gathering near Roosevelt Road in Loomis on the west side Sunday night. 5 officers were injured. According to reports, some of the officers suffered broken bones. The 18-year-old faces attempted murder charges. There is a growing push for answers to address those large teen gatherings. The latest one happening last night near 57th Street Beach in Hyde Park. It looked like hundreds of people were seen trying to climb over a wall. Police cars were lined along the lakefront as officers tried to gain control. Part of DuSable Lakeshore Drive was shut down for a while and traffic had to be rerouted. And then a few blocks away, there was a more violent gathering where police say 3 teens were shot near 55th and Cornell. Authorities say an 18-year-old and 2 19-year-olds were taken to the hospital and are expected to be okay. Meanwhile, another chaotic scene developed near North Avenue Beach Monday night. Well, a group of Chicago aldermen are calling for parents to be called out. They want parents of teens who get arrested past curfew to be held accountable. Alderman Brian Hopkins is among a group of Chicago aldermen who wants to use a law that classifies contributing to the delinquency of a minor as a Class A misdemeanor. Apparently, they are working on drafting an ordinance to apply this law to parents of minors who are caught out past curfew at one of these illegal gatherings. They are calling for parents to cooperate and manage their children. In other news today, Sonny Rollins, saxophonist and restless genius of jazz, died at the age of 95. Sonny Rollins is a towering figure in jazz whose career spanned over 7 decades. He is celebrated as one of the most powerful, intensive tenor saxophonists of our time. That's a look at our news now on 1690 WVON. Traffic and weather up next. WVON News Time, 7:38.
Hi, I'm Lori Smith, host of Meeting the Moment. WVON, in partnership with the Chicago Community Trust, developed Meeting the Moment to amplify the voices of nonprofits across Chicagoland, giving them the communication tools they need to expand their reach and turn awareness into action. Right now, our communities are facing real challenges, from economic uncertainty to public safety to access and equity. But in the middle of it all, there are organizations doing the work quietly, faithfully, powerfully. With Meeting the Moment, we'll have honest conversations about the issues shaping our region and, more importantly, the solutions happening on the ground. And each week, we'll feature a Chicagoland nonprofit making a difference. You'll hear their story and find out how you can support their work. Because Meeting the Moment is about more than just awareness. It's about impact. Join the Meeting the Moment movement, a program designed for the doers. For more information, visit WVON.com/meetingthemoment. Listen every Saturday at 12 noon, right here on WVON 1690, the talk of Chicago. Let's meet the moment together. Powered by the Chicago Community Trust.
At Capital One, we're the type of bank a tech company would build. We harness the power of technology, bring humanity to our work, and lead with innovation. Reimagining banking means we need brilliant and bold perspectives. That's where you come in. Ready to discover a game-changing career that'll challenge and inspire you? Check out CapitalOneCareers.com to build a future we can all bank on. That's life at Capital One.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-478-6430 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-478-6430. That's 800-478-6430. What do you have to lose? Call 800-478-6430. Again, 800-478-6430.
Hey, Chicago, this one is for you. Join OG Mr. Rick for the OG Culture Report every Thursday night from 9 to 12 right here on WVON 1690 AM. We're talking the culture, our stories, the streets, politics, entertainment, our struggles, our wins, and the voices that matter. Don't miss it. Every Thursday night, 9 to 12, the OG Culture Report with yours truly, OG Mr. Rick, on WVON 1690. That's it. That's all.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Buying custom blinds shouldn't be complicated or stressful. That's why Blindster.com makes it simple and affordable. You measure, you install, and you save big on custom blinds. Ordering takes minutes. Installation is easy. And they guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
This Juneteenth, the Obama Presidential Center opens to the world on Chicago's South Side. The ancestors are proud. We're WVON.
Catch Reverend Al Sharpton online at WVON.com or on the WVON app. Just click the Al Sharpton banner. Tune in every day at 12 noon for your daily dose. And if you miss it, catch the overnight replay from midnight to 3 a.m. We're keeping it real with Al Sharpton on WVON 1690.
Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real.
I've tried everything to stand out at work. Donuts, a company coffee blend, even dressed as the company mascot for Halloween.
There's an easier way. A ComEd facility assessment. Their engineer gave my company free insights and actions that saved us $732,000 on energy. Easy, right?
Learn how ComEd can help you save at ComEd.com/facility assessment. ComEd, powering lives. Savings will vary based on customers' usage and rate.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-478-6430 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-478-6430. That's 800-478-6430. What do you have to lose? Call 800-478-6430. Again, 800-478-6430.
Hey, it's Cleopatra Draper. Join me for the Midday Show weekdays at 9 a.m. where we'll sip and spill all the tea. Do you want it hot or cold? Either way, we're serving up the flavor of the day. Weekdays at 9 a.m. right here on the station giving you what's now and what's next. 1690 WVON.
This is Khomeini Khan, certified financial planner professional. For the past year, I've been on a mission to change lives and build wealth in our community. Together, we're changing the paradigm. This year, I'm back with a new series, Wealth Strategies, Money Talks. Join me every Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. on the Rufus Williams Show as we have thoughtful discussions around building wealth in our community. We'll discuss topics like investing, savings, tax strategies, retirement, and all things money. Yes, that's Tuesday at 8:30 a.m., so set those alarms. Also, be sure to check out the podcast at WVONwealthshow.com.
Khomeini Khan is a certified financial planner professional with Optimal Planning Partners in alliance with Equitable Advisors, LLC member SIPC in Oak Brook, Illinois. For more information, please call 630-575-5046.
This report is brought to you by Dell Technologies. Dell PCs with Intel inside are built for the moments that matter, like when you're finishing a big project and you can't be interrupted by an update. With long-lasting battery life and built-in intelligence, you can stay focused on what matters most. Built for you. Learn more at Dell.com/Dell PCs.
Now back to the morning show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Welcome back. So I have no chance of catching up with myself until I get to the end of the show, but I'm going to do the best that I can. But before I go to my next break, let me take this call from Brother Hall. Brother Hall, good morning. Welcome to VON. What's on your mind this morning, my friend? Brother Hall? Brother Hall, I'm trying to take your call. Let's put it back on hold until we can get all that organized. Titus, last night, there was almost a basketball game.
Two teams showed up for sure.
Well, one team showed up. The other one was, I don't know, it was worse than the Globetrotters and the Nationals.
Big time.
Cleveland dialed it in really early.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, they put up no fight. You got Kenny Atkinson talking before the game, talking about analytically we're up in the series. Just all types of foolishness before the game even started. And then when they actually started, I mean, Cleveland, they were jogging down the court defensively. Like they just gave up all hope on any chance of coming back in the series.
It was embarrassing. And half the stadium seemed like it was New York.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you got all the celebrities from New York. You see Tracy Morgan, Timothy Chalamet, Ben Stiller, Spike Lee. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, put up a fight.
There was nothing left. And it must have been that first game when New York came back in the fourth quarter, just took their heart out fully, totally, completely, and entirely. And so there they went. So New York is setting records, and Cleveland is part of that record book. So here we go, and they sit and wait for either the Spurs or the Thunder, who are going to beat up on each other for the next 3 games to see who gets to play.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. To me, this is my finals right here because of the fact is that both of these teams are really good.
Yeah.
So whoever, to me, wins this series is going to win the NBA Finals. I don't think the Knicks have a shot against any of those teams.
It'll be interesting because the Knicks are rolling, so it'll be fun to watch. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, there's a lot that's been going on in D.C. and lawsuits and the court seem to be the way that things ultimately get finished. We have a professor from Northwestern joining us to talk about one of these cases that involves his sister, Lisa Cook, at the Fed. We'll be back to talk with Professor Jim Speta right after this.
More of the morning show with Rufus Williams coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Primary care that's completely you. OSF Complete Care 55 Plus is personalized primary care for adults 55 and older living with ongoing health conditions. Now accepting patients in Evergreen Park. OSFhealthcare.org/CC55.
Smart conversations with smart people makes us smarter. And that's exactly what you get on Bound and Woven with Rufus Williams. This isn't surface level talk. This is where authors become experts, where books become blueprints, and where ideas are challenged, not just discussed. From Colin Woodard on Nations Apart, to Gloria J. Brown Marshall breaking down the history of protests in America, to Gary Tyler sharing a story of resilience and redemption and stitching freedom. These are not interviews. These are conversations that matter because every book has a story and every story has a deeper meaning. Bound and Woven with Rufus Williams on Bond TV. You can catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV Plus, the WVON app, and VON.TV.
Ready to fire up your taste buds, Chicago? Black-owned Kodo Hibachi serves fresh, authentic hibachi and sushi, served with a smile. Grab takeout, order delivery, or dine in casual style. No flaming show, just flavor that steals the spotlight. And hey, tell them WVON is your favorite radio station and get 10% off your order. Visit them at 258 West 31st Street. Open Tuesday through Thursday, 11 to 8, Friday and Saturday till 9, Sundays till 7. And don't forget, tell them WVON is your favorite radio station and get 10% off your order. Koda Hibachi, where flavor meets culture.
Pull up to the flagship location at 258 West 31st Street and stay tuned. The Kodo family is growing. New location coming soon.
Hey Chicago, it's Henry Cheatham, your Magnolia Blues man. The Chicago Blues Fest is back and WVON is bringing the soul of the city with it. Join your favorite WVON personalities June 5th through the 7th at Millennium Park for this event. Friday night, we're celebrating 55 years of Alligator Records with tribute to Coco Taylor, Lonnie Brooks, Hound Dog Taylor, and Chris Stone, Kingfish Ingram. Saturday, we're bringing 75 years of Chicago blues to the main stage, featuring Chicago's own Billy Branch, Kenny Neal, and Ronnie Baker Brooks. And we'll close out the weekend on Sunday with the legendary Taj Mahal and the Phantom Blues Band. A special tribute to women in blues featuring Lynn Jordan and the Shivers, Melody Angel, and Deetra Farr. And keep listening for a chance to win an exclusive VIP Blues Fest experience. For more information, visit WVON.com/events. Brought to you by Mayor Brandon Johnson and DKs.
Hey Alexa, play WVON 1690 AM.
Getting WVON 1690 AM station from iHeartRadio.
Try it out for yourself. America is listening to WVON.
Hey, Chicago, this one is for you. Join OG Mr. Rick for the OG Culture Report every Thursday night from 9 to 12 right here on WVON 1690 AM. We're talking the culture, our stories, the streets, politics, entertainment, our struggles, our wins, and the voices that matter. Don't miss it. Every Thursday night, 9 to 12, the OG Culture Report with yours truly, OG Mr. Rick on WVON 1690. That's it. That's all.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Buying custom blinds shouldn't be complicated or stressful. That's why Blindster.com makes it simple and affordable. You measure, you install, and you save big on custom blinds. Ordering takes minutes. Installation is easy, and they guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
WVON traffic and weather now.
If you have to take northbound DuSable Lakeshore Drive right now, you might want to find an alternate route. Right now, it has been closed for quite a while because of an earlier accident. But right now, we are just getting word in real time that the lanes along DuSable Lakeshore Drive have just reopened. Apparently, there was an accident earlier near 47th Street. Traffic was pretty much solid all the way back to Marquette. Right now, we're seeing some movement, but things are still pretty packed. You're looking at a 36-minute trip from 67th Street to Jackson. Elsewhere along DuSable Lakeshore Drive, just fine. Things are heavy, but moving along the inbound side of the Ryan, a 30-minute trip from 95th Street into downtown. Right now, getting to the Ryan along the Bishop Ford and Tuskegee Airmen Memorial, things are still relatively quiet. If you're on the Stevenson, though, 56 minutes in from I-355 to DuSable Drive, 45 traveling out. A 51-minute trip along the Eisenhower from Thorndale to the Burns Circle, outbound just about 45 as well. And on the Kennedy, a 30-minute trip in from O'Hare to downtown. Getting to the airport, heavy and slow at 41 minutes. Taking a look at our weather, another summer-like day in Chicago. Temperatures climbing into the mid-80s once again. 86 is our official high, 62 our low tonight. We're up to 70 at Midway, is 70 degrees in Washington Heights, and 70 here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm in Illinois on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Now back to the morning show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Welcome back. The current incumbent of the White House is taking huge steps, trying to do so many things unilaterally that should be in the control of Congress, that is not part of his responsibility, that really ultimately ends up at the Supreme Court. Trump versus Cook is one of those that is an ongoing landmark Supreme Court case centering on whether or not he has the ability to unilaterally remove a Federal Reserve governor. This Federal Reserve governor that he's looking to remove is Lisa Cook. Back in August of last year, he removed her, in fact, saying that she committed mortgage fraud back in 2021 before joining the Fed. The allegation suggests that she misrepresented her residency status to receive more favorable loan terms. He said that this was behavior that constituted gross negligence and provided that as cause for her dismissal. Lisa Cook has denied those allegations and sued to block her removal. We have joining us this morning a professor from Northwestern's law school, James Speta, who is actually the Elizabeth Froling Horner Professor of Law at Northwestern, to talk about this. He focuses there on antitrust law, administrative law, torts, business associations, and telecommunications. He's been there since 1999, has been co-president of the law school's Global League, and served as the interim dean during the pandemic. There was something I saw in here. Jim oversaw significant DEI initiatives, curriculum reform, and new international and cross-campus joint degree programs. Jim Speta, good morning and welcome to WVON.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, but I'm looking at this and I'm seeing DEI in your biography. Is that okay? Is that okay at Northwestern these days?
It was okay with me. It's still okay with me. Northwestern's policies are now beyond my control.
All right. Well, let's talk about the matter. I'm glad that it's there. And glad whatever you did in that case is important. And it even ties back into what we're talking about this morning, because this whole issue with Lisa Cook, and I just kind of summarized it. Tell us, is there more that we need to understand about what's happening with this case?
I think your summary was spot on. I think there's a broader context that you also referred to of the president seeking great additional powers. And where it relates to the Cook case is the president has essentially sought to eliminate the independence of many federal agencies, independence that Congress had codified starting in the late 1800s when it created some of these agencies to try to put them a little bit beyond politics. The Fed may be the most important example of this today, but it is a strategy that the president has been taking all across the government.
How and why is he doing this? Why haven't others done it? And what can be done? Because it feels so anti-democratic the way in which he is coming through and doing things at his will, as well as pushing others to show fealty to him. How and why is that happening, and why is that being allowed at this point?
So the reason it hasn't been done before is because there's a Supreme Court case from the 1930s called Humphrey's Executor, which explicitly held that these statutes were constitutional and that the president's power to eliminate the people who run independent agencies like Lisa Cook on the board of the Federal Reserve could not be fired by the president just because the president didn't like their policies. That decision was the law. It was treated as the law until around 2010, when the new Supreme Court, or the newly conservative Supreme Court, expressed its doubts in the constitutionality of those restrictions on presidential power. And it wasn't until this administration that the president decided to make a frontal attack on the independent agencies, or the independence of those agencies. And why it did that is there's a comprehensive program in this administration that was sort of put in a blueprint called Project 2025, written by the Heritage Foundation, to eliminate constraints on presidential power all across the government, consistent with this new Supreme Court view of the limits on Congress's power to rein in the president.
Looking at this from a broader standpoint, and I can't read anybody's heart, but the evidence would suggest some other things, and it doesn't escape anybody that Lisa Cook is a Black woman. As Donald Trump has looked to remove her and done things in that space, and one of the reasons why I elevated the DEI in your background, does there seem to be something larger happening within this administration that does not include many people of color, certainly not many Black folks, and not many women in the spaces in which he is doing these things? And again, is that legal? Don't answer that question yet. We got to take a quick break, find out what's in the headlines. When we come back, more with Professor Jim Speta on what's happening in Washington, and particularly his Trump versus Cook case at the Supreme Court.
Another day of some sunshine and warm temperatures, as temps are expected to climb well into the 80s. On this Tuesday, May 26, 2026, I'm in Illinois, and in the headlines, just ahead of his trip to Rome to meet with the Pope, Mayor Brandon Johnson spoke exclusively on WVON this morning. One main topic, Memorial Day holiday weekend violence and teen gatherings. Later this morning, the 18-year-old suspect accused of driving a car that plowed into a group of Chicago police officers is due in court. The 18-year-old faces attempted murder charges. National news from the Black Information Network is next on Chicago's only urban talk radio station, 1690 AM WVON, Berwyn, Chicago. It's 8:01.
Here's BIN News Now. Two siblings are facing charges after a Chicago police officer was attacked during a traffic stop. Officer Kevin Manigan's mother.
They should have never been let out for their previous crimes. I feel so relieved that they're behind bars.
Michael Sofer and Monica Mejia are charged with aggravated battery to a police officer. A Black man who went viral for his redistricting speech is now considering a run for office. Marshawn Camise gained attention for criticizing efforts to weaken majority Black districts at a Louisiana State Senate committee hearing. He says the public response has inspired him to explore a possible campaign. And former First Lady Michelle Obama says she still hasn't watched Viola Davis portray her in the First Lady series that streamed on Showtime and Paramount Plus. Appearing on Keke Palmer's podcast, Mrs. Obama joked it's the one thing she can't bring herself to do, while adding she admires Viola Davis. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app. Here's more with Terry McCready.
New Jersey's Black Senator Cory Booker says it's time for a new Democratic Party leadership.
People are suffering, people are hurting, and they're going to support the leaders. And I'm seeing this in Tallarico, in Ossoff, in Cooper, in North Carolina, that those leaders are stepping up and saying, I don't give a damn about parties, I care about people.
Booker on CNN's State of the Union also calling for a renewed Democratic vision. He says it's most important to make American realities the priority. President Trump says it's just part of the job. This after a Black 21-year-old gunman opened fire near the perimeter of the White House. Over the weekend, House Speaker Mike Johnson says we live in a heightened threat environment.
I keep telling my Democrat colleagues, you cannot demonize the other side, call them Nazis, call the president a threat to democracy and all that, and expect that some crazy people will not be triggered by it. We got to turn that down.
Nasir Best reportedly had prior run-ins with local law enforcement. He was killed by Secret Service, and a civilian suffered non-life-threatening injuries in the incident. Maryland Senate President Bill Ferguson is suggesting a new stance on mid-decade redistricting after initially railing against it. Battles over congressional maps are mounting nationwide ahead of the midterms. Ferguson had earlier sounded the alarm about drawing a new map, warning it could trigger legal challenges and public opposition. That position helped stall efforts backed by Black Governor Wes Moore and other Democratic leaders who have been working to reconsider the state's district lines prior to the next election cycle. In recent days, the state Senate leader said the rules have changed, adding that Maryland must respond as the ground shifts. Ferguson's remarks clear the way for a possible special legislative session. This comes after the Supreme Court decision clawed back provisions in the Voting Rights Act. All right, 5 Chicago police officers are recovering after they were struck by a vehicle while trying to control a teen takeover on Sunday on the city's west side. Here's one of the witnesses.
It looked like millions of kids out here. Kids were all on top of their cars. They were stopping in the middle of the street, twerking, and it was ridiculous.
Police say 3 officers remain hospitalized. An 18-year-old who allegedly drove the car is in custody. The CPD says the vehicle jumped a curb and slammed into a patrol car, utility pole, and a fence before coming to a stop. A gun was reportedly also found inside. Thousands of small-scale gold mining operations across Sudan are becoming closely linked to the country's brutal conflict between the military and the paramilitary rapid support forces. UN-commissioned experts say large quantities of gold have been smuggled out of the country to finance armed groups controlling mining sites in Darfur and Kordofan. Despite the risks, many Sudanese say mining is their livelihood, as Sudan produced 70 tons of gold last year, generating roughly $2 billion in revenue, according to official figures. Stay informed, stay connected, and subscribe. Follow VIN News this hour wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Terry McCready for the Black Information Network.
Healthy habits don't have to happen overnight. Progress beats perfection every single time.
Your health, our community, we're WVON.
This is Rufus Williams, and I've got something special for you. I am proud to announce that we're launching the Rufus Williams Travel Club in conjunction with Advantage International. Our first trip, we're staying in the United States and heading to one of the most stunning destinations for culture to cuisine. Join us October 8th through 12th as we explore the charm, the beauty, and the history of Charleston, South Carolina. This isn't your typical getaway. We're walking through history and standing where our stories began. From the roots of Gullah Geechee culture to the International African American Museum, from cobblestone streets to waterfront views. This is more than a trip. It's a cultural vibe. To find out more, visit WVON.com and click the Rufus Williams Travel Club banner. And keep listening for more details. The Rufus Williams Travel Club will turn curiosity into understanding, one destination at a time. We are WVON.
See something? Say something. Don't scroll. Call 911. OEMC's got your back. Help keep Chicago safe. Again, if you see something, say something. Don't just scroll. Call 911. OEMC's got your back. Help keep Chicago safe.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Buying custom blinds shouldn't be complicated or stressful. That's why Blindster.com makes it simple and affordable. You measure, you install, and you save big on custom blinds. Ordering takes minutes, installation is easy, and they guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
It's D.L. Hughley.
If it weren't for the Black Panthers, American children wouldn't have free breakfast. Now, I don't know many groups that are only bad that feed children. The Klan only gave us Burning Cross. I guess you could warm your breakfast up on one.
Weekdays at 5 a.m. on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Smart conversations with smart people makes us smarter. And that's exactly what you get on Bound and Woven with Rufus Williams. This isn't surface level talk. This is where authors become experts, where books become blueprints, and where ideas are challenged, not just discussed. From Colin Woodard on Nations Apart, to Gloria J. Brown Marshall breaking down the history of protests in America, to Gary Tyler sharing a story of resilience and redemption and stitching freedom. These are not interviews. These are conversations that matter, because every book has a story and every story has a deeper meaning. Bound and Woven with Rufus Williams on Bond TV. You can catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV+, the WVON app, and VON.TV.
Hey, Alexa, play WVON 1690 AM.
Getting WVON 1690 AM station from iHeartRadio.
Try it out for yourself. America is listening to WVON. Tune in every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for Speak On It with Dr. Kofi Malik. You've seen him on cable TV. Now hear his spirited conversation on the Talk of Chicago. The question at hand is raising voices of the Negro. That plain and simple. Tune in every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for Speak On It with Dr. Kofi Malik on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
This report is brought to you by the Hartford Auto Insurance. Wait until you hear this. You could save hundreds by switching to AARP Auto Insurance from The Hartford. Visit trusthartford.com. The Hartford, your protection is their passion. The Hartford Insurance Group, Inc. pays royalty fees to AARP for the use of its intellectual property. AARP and its affiliates are non-insurers. Savings vary.
WVON traffic and weather now.
Starting with DuSable Lakeshore Drive northbound, things have opened up and back on the move. After that earlier accident near 47th Street, traffic was solid back to Marquette. Now things are moving at a much more normal pace. You're looking at 22 minutes from 67th Street to Jackson. As you make your way from Hollywood to Monroe, now a 16-minute trip, we're seeing some stop-and-go traffic from Irving Park Road to North Avenue. The Ryan, now a 30-minute trip from 95th Street to downtown. Things are still moving well along the Bishop Ford and Tuskegee Airmen Memorial for now. If you're on the Stevenson, still just about 56 minutes in from I-355 to DuSable Drive 40 traveling out. The inbound side of the Eisenhower, now almost an hour. You're looking at 57 minutes from Thorndale to the Burns Circle. Give yourself 55 minutes on the return trip. And almost 40 on the inbound Kennedy from O'Hare to downtown, still a 41-minute trip to the airport. Turning to our weather, a few clouds, but warm again today as temperatures make their way well into the mid-80s. 86 is our high, 62 our low tonight. Right now, the National Weather Service says we're holding pretty steady right now at 71 degrees at Midway. It's 71 in Jeffrey Manor and 71 here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm Annette Flournoy on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Live from the Xfinity Studios, it's the station that America listens to. WVON, Berwyn, Chicago. It's Rufus Williams on Chicago's essential storyteller, WVON.
You wonder how I do it. It's just one simple rule. I'm just cool. Honey, baby, can't you see? Girl, I'm so cool. Ain't nobody bad like me. Hey. R-U-F-U-S. More than still. R-U-F-U-S.
Welcome back. We are talking with Northwestern law professor Jim Speta, talking about what's going on in Washington, specifically this Trump versus Cook case. Lisa Cook being the governor on the Federal Reserve who Trump looked to remove from office back in August of last year. Professor, right before the break, I asked a longer question, longer described, but the essence of it is there a race involved in this looking to remove Lisa Cook from the bench that you can determine?
Well, my opinion is yes, race is involved. In the first couple of months of this new Trump administration, more than 300,000 Black women were dismissed from federal government employment. And that was a highly disproportionate number in terms of dismissals. And Dr. Cook is the first Black woman to serve on the Board of Federal Governors. She's the only member of the Board of Governors who was dismissed. In his attack on independent agencies, President Trump also dismissed Dr. Gwynne Wilcox, who was the first Black woman to serve on the National Labor Relations Board. Now, the president doesn't give reasons, for the most part, when he dismisses employment, people from employment in the federal government. So we don't have a smoking gun evidence that this is racial discrimination, but the evidence seems that it's focused and disproportionately falling on Black women who are employed in the federal government. So I'll leave it to the lawyers and the politicians, but it doesn't look good.
It doesn't. But Mr. Law Professor, let me ask, what is it that should be done in that case? Obviously, this is a push back at her being removed illegally. But when we look at the numbers and when we look at the evidence and we look at what's happening there and in other parts of the government, what can be done that pushes against this removal of Black people from these important positions that they have, in fact, earned, and in many cases are more qualified than those who may be removing them?
Well, there's litigation to be sure, and in the cases of employees protected by civil service laws, in the cases of other heads of agencies, there's been litigation, and we're going to know in the next couple of months what the Supreme Court thinks of at least the Cook case and a case involving a commissioner of the Federal Trade Commission, Rebecca Slaughter. But I think it's politics that has to answer this, and I'm disappointed that Congress has been so inactive. There is a lot at stake here. More than 600 economists, just to come back to the Cook case, more than 600 economists said that dismissing Dr. Cook would set such a bad precedent for the independence of the Federal Reserve and the independence of monetary policy in this country that we could risk a recession, not just in the United States, but around the world. And I think those are risks that Congress needs to take seriously and reinforce the regimes that Congress put in place to protect employees against unjustified dismissal, certainly against racially motivated dismissals. That's where I think we need to have a lot more action.
To your point,
unfortunately, our Congress is very divided.
Well, divided and moving in another direction. So to your point, it would seem, one, we rely on the courts, but also the voting matters. But that's still going to be a long-term answer to things that are happening immediately now. And quite frankly, there's concern about what this court comes back with some of the rulings that they've made. When we look at these things, and this is not the first time that the Supreme Court has made rulings that seem to be just bass-ackward. What do we do in these cases where the Supreme Court seems to be off kilter with the results that they come back with?
That's a big question. I do think Congress has a number of tools to express discontent with the Supreme Court. The people have tools to express their discontent with the Supreme Court. The most aggressive view is to do what President Roosevelt threatened to do in the 1930s, which was to expand the size of the Supreme Court the next time that the Democrats have power in the presidency and the Congress to do so. That might be an extreme reaction, but I think awareness of what the Supreme Court is doing. I mean, you referenced voting. The Clay decision, which is just fresh out from the Supreme Court, was a decision by the Supreme Court, which is going to lead to substantial disenfranchisement and decreased representation of Blacks and other people of color in Congress if it goes forward the way it looks like.
Which again, we look back and in the history, we've seen Plessy versus Ferguson. We've seen the Supreme Court do things that were just wrong, but it took years, a lot of years before those things were reversed. And we have to, what I think I heard you tell us is that Congress can pass laws that would overstate even what it is that comes from the Supreme Court. Is that what we ultimately will have to rely on to the extent that this Congress makeup can change?
Yeah, ultimately, when the courts move in a direction that the people don't like, the people prevail if the people come out and vote, if the people get their expression in Congress, which is why the decision in Clay to me is so troubling, because it seems to me to move us away from being true democracy instead of moving in the direction of a true democracy. But you're right, it's going to take a while. I have still some hope in the American experiment, but that's a discussion we have to be having in a very serious way.
In a very serious way and all the time. One of the other places that you are strong in is antitrust. I'd like to talk to you, if we can, about what's happening in the media space with this potential merger with Warner Brothers and Paramount. Are you good with that?
Of course, sure.
All right, let me take a quick break. When we come back, more with Professor Speta from Northwestern. We'll be back right after this.
More of the morning show with Rufus Williams coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Kidney disease affects Black Americans at disproportionately higher rates. Early awareness and routine testing matter, and that's your healthy reminder.
This healthy reminder is sponsored in part by the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois.
The Chicago Symphony Orchestra's African American Network celebrates its 10th anniversary of recognizing Black composers, conductors, and performers on June 13th at Symphony Center. Hear the CSO perform Bernstein's The Age of Anxiety and a selection of spirituals performed by the Apostolic Church of God Sanctuary Choir, including Lift Every Voice and Sing. After, join the AAN for the momentous celebration. More at cso.org/AAN.
Tuned in to your favorite WVON personalities on Facebook Live? Don't just watch, like it, love it, share it. Every click helps us grow the conversation and keep the community strong. So remember, like it, love it, share it, Chicago.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-478-6430 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-478-6430. That's 800-478-6430. What do you have to lose? Call 800-478-6430. Again, 800-478-6430.
Hey, Chicago, this one is for you. Join OG Mr. Rick for the OG Culture Report every Thursday night from 9 to 12 right here on WVON 1690 AM. We're talking the culture, our stories, the streets, politics, entertainment, our struggles, our wins, and the voices that matter. Don't miss it. Every Thursday night, 9 to 12, the OG Culture Report with yours truly, OG Mr. Rick, on WVON 1690. That's it. That's all.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Buying custom blinds shouldn't be complicated or stressful. That's why Blindster.com makes it simple and affordable. You measure, you install, and you save big on custom blinds. Ordering takes minutes. Installation is easy. And they guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
That cannabis charge from years ago, it could still be costing you jobs, housing, and opportunities you don't even know you're missing. But there's a way out. New Leaf, Illinois is a free state-funded program helping people clear old cannabis and other eligible records. You've already paid the price. Don't let your old record cost you even more. Call 872-NEW-LEAF or visit newleafillinois.org today. New Leaf, Illinois, it's your fresh start.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-478-6430 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-478-6430. That's 800-478-6430. What do you have to lose? Call 800-478-6430. Again, 800-478-6430.
I was having a medical procedure, and I wanted to ensure my kids would get my home should something happen to me. I called attorney Ted London. He provided the land, trust, and power of attorney. Now my kids will not have to go through the probate process.
After the death of my husband, I had to get my affairs in order. I called attorney Ted London. Now my family and home will not have to go through the probate process.
773-721-3333.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Buying custom blinds shouldn't be complicated or stressful. That's why Blindster.com makes it simple and affordable. You measure, you install, and you save big on custom blinds. Ordering takes minutes. Installation is easy. And they guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
Now back to the morning show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Welcome back. So you heard Annette tell you how bad the traffic has been on the drive to Sabo Lakeshore Drive. You've heard about it, talk about it on the expressways. It's because people drive fast, and when you have an accident, it's going to be bad. You can avoid all of that, the traffic, the stress, by taking the train. If you just get aboard Metra, you get where you're going quickly, comfortably, and safely. 95% on-time rate, you'll be there on time, and it only costs you $2.50 with the new regional day pass. Unlimited rides on Metra, CTA, and Pace. Purchasing tickets are easy. Just go to get the Venture app, and you can bring the whole family because kids under 11 ride free. So whether you're going up to Northwestern to sit and audit a class by my guest, Professor Speta, or whether you're trying to get downtown to Millennium Park or the Blues Fest, stop sitting in never-ending gridlock. Stop paying for expensive parking. Use Metra so you can drive less and do more. Back to my guest, Professor Speta. Professor, there's been a consolidation in the media space, and particularly looking at what Paramount has been doing and their potential merger with Warner Brothers. It seems with all these things, it does feel like there are some antitrust issues involved. Are we not at that place yet?
Oh, I think we are, and the concentration that you've referred to has reached unprecedentedly high levels in certain parts of the media market. And there is an antitrust case ongoing with respect to the Warner Brothers Paramount merger, but the merger's been closed because the federal government decided that it wasn't going to assist in the antitrust case. And I think even apart from antitrust, I have a big worry these days that the current administration is trying to clamp down on the media, particularly media with which it disagrees. We saw Stephen Colbert's last performance last week on CBS, and certainly CBS News has been greatly changed. And with respect to Paramount Warner Brothers, I have significant concerns that the administration is going to bring pressure on CNN to change its news reporting. And we just have a very great lack of independent news voices, such as this radio station in America these days.
What do we do? I mean, if the lawsuits are already being filed, if those things are there, and again, it unfortunately seems to be our point of last resort, and we know that it's deliberative, so it's going to take some time. But in the meantime, it seems like these things are moving, and to the extent that it's impacting media right now, this current FCC, there has already been a point of people already silencing themselves on certain opinions that go through. So it just feels like our democracy is being hampered entirely just because we don't have the discourse or the opinions or the facts as we know them to come out.
I agree with you. I mean, in our previous segments, I pushed on Congress to do more, and that you were quite right to say Congress is perhaps not the best short-term solution here. I think there are opportunities for entrepreneurship, for new local voices. My friends at our Medill Journalism School are leading efforts to support local media. Those of us who are interested should be seeking out those outlets, Block Club Chicago, other innovative outlets supporting this radio station. And that's what we can do as listeners to make sure that not just us, but our fellow citizens have access to independent voices.
Thank you so much for all that, especially including us in there. What do you do differently as you teach law students in this current environment? Does this change the curriculum? Does this change their outlook? Does this change people going into the law? What do you do, and what are you seeing?
Well, I will say that applications to law schools are way up, in part due to, at least according to our admissions people, in part due to the current environment. I have changed what I do in class, in part because we have a new slew of opinions every year from this Supreme Court who's trying to remake the law. But I would also say that I do a lot differently to address what is a fundamentally uncertain time for our students. Uncertain because of our divided politics, uncertain because of the changes that AI seems to be bringing to certainty of employment and other concerns. And so I just, I'm sensitive to where our students are, how our students are living their lives as well. Nevertheless, they are what gives me hope. These students who come every year, who want to work hard, who, when they learn these tools, really want to go out and change the country for the better, for their own definition of what's the better. To be sure, our students have to come from lots and lots of different backgrounds. But that's what gives me hope working with.
Well, Shakespeare said first, let's kill all the lawyers. But I think in this case, we just need to have more because we got a lot in front of us. Professor Jim Speta of Northwestern Law School, thank you so much for giving us all of this time this morning and sharing your intellect. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
I look forward to doing it again. Be well. With that, let's find out from Annette what's going on in the news. When we come back, it's Tuesday. We'll talk with Khomeini Khan. We'll be back right after this.
Another warm day in Chicago as temperatures climb into the mid-80s. Good morning. I'm Annette Flournoy, and here's what's happening. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is about to travel to Rome to meet with the Pope before leaving. He spoke exclusively with WVON's Rufus Williams this morning. One main topic, Memorial Day weekend violence and teen gatherings. He says one of the challenges is to dispel the myth that all the individuals causing chaos is underage.
Where the alleged 18-year-old ran their vehicle into a crowd and injured several officers. That individual was not in violation of a curfew, and yet their act caused harm and was incredibly reckless and dangerous. And so what we have worked to do is to prevent these gatherings from happening to the best of our ability, right? When we get word of them, we deploy, we intercept, we intervene. But in some instances, like the one that happened going into Sunday morning, there were students apparently who after prom were hanging out. There were adults out there as well.
Later this morning, the 18-year-old suspect the mayor spoke about is expected in court. Rashard Johnson is accused of driving the car that plowed into a group of Chicago police officers during a massive teen gathering near Roosevelt Road in Loomis on the west side Sunday morning. 5 officers were injured. According to reports, some of the officers suffered broken bones. The 18-year-old faces attempted murder charges. Well, there's a growing push for answers to address those large teen gatherings. The latest one happening just last night near 57th Street Beach in Hyde Park. It looked like hundreds of people were seen trying to climb over a wall. Police cars were lined along the lakefront as officers tried to gain control. Part of DuSable Lakeshore Drive was shut down for a while and traffic had to be rerouted. A few blocks away, there was a more violent gathering where police say 3 teens were shot near 55th and Cornell. Authorities say an 18-year-old and 2 19-year-olds were taken to the hospital and are expected to be okay. Meanwhile, another chaotic scene developed near North Avenue Beach Monday night. Well, today, hundreds of Uber and Lyft drivers are heading to Springfield. They're going to try to convince state lawmakers to approve a bill that will allow them to form a union. It's called the Illinois Transportation Network Driver Labor Relations Act. If it passes, Uber and Lyft drivers will gain the right to unionize so they can better negotiate pay, benefits, and working conditions. Drivers in Massachusetts are the first in the country to gain union certification. That's a look at our news now on 1690 WVON. Traffic and weather up next. WVON News Time, 8:32.
WVON's Health Awareness Month, sponsored in part by OSF Complete Care 55+.
What if you could have the most reliable fiber-powered Wi-Fi? And get this, what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years? During the Xfinity Summer Savings Event, now through June 15th, new customers can get our best price on gig Wi-Fi, just $50 a month for 5 years. And get online in minutes with same-day Wi-Fi. It's Wi-Fi that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them, like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a 6th sense. Plus, add 1 line of Xfinity Mobile Select and you can save an average of $60 a month over Verizon and AT&T. You can even try it free for a year. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities during the Xfinity Summer Savings Event. Get it now at Xfinity.com. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. Savings based on 1 gig internet and 1 mobile select line compared to similar Verizon and AT&T plans over 5 years. After 12 months, regular rates apply to mobile select. Xfinity internet required. Speeds vary. Use of fiber coaxial cable.
Taking medication exactly as prescribed can help protect your kidneys and improve long-term health outcomes. And that's your Healthy Reminder.
This Healthy Reminder is sponsored in part by the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois.
Shark Tank.
Catch Reverend Al Sharpton online at WVON.com or on the WVON app. Just click the Al Sharpton banner. Tune in every day at 12 noon for your daily dose. And if you miss it, catch the overnight replay from midnight to 3 a.m. We're keeping it real with Al Sharpton on WVON 1690.
Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-478-6430 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-478-6430. That's 800-478-6430. What do you have to lose? Call 800-478-6430. Again, 800-478-6430.
Tune in every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for Speak On It with Dr. Kofi Malik. You've seen him on cable TV. Now hear his spirited conversation on the Talk of Chicago. The question at hand is raising voices of the Negro. That plain and simple. Tune in every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for Speak On It with Dr. Kofi Malik on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Now, during Staples Sit-a-thon, you can save up to $180 on select chairs, desk chairs, computer chairs, even gaming chairs. In-store only. Offer ends 3/2. See associates for details. Stop by Staples today and grab a seat.
WVON traffic and weather now.
You're looking at a 35-minute trip along the Ryan from 95th Street into downtown. Right now, pretty much stop and go from 55th all the way in. As you make your way along the Bishop Ford, things are still looking pretty good. Tuskegee Airmen Memorial now 17 minutes in from I-80. We're seeing some minor delays right around 111th Street, then slow all the way in. As you make your way along DuSable Lakeshore Drive, things are much better now that earlier crash northbound has been removed right around 47th Street. 22 minutes from 67th Street to Jackson right now. Hollywood to Monroe, 17 minutes in. If you're on the Stevenson, still just shy of an hour from I-355 to DuSable Drive outbound, a 50-minute trip. You're looking at 55 minutes along the Eisenhower from Thorndale to the Burns Circle, outbound just about 55. And the Kennedy in from O'Hare to downtown, 40 minutes, now 40 getting to the airport. Taking a look at our weather, another summer-like day in Chicago as temperatures climb well into the 80s. 86 is our high today, under a few more clouds, though. 62 tonight. We're up to 72 at Midway. It's 72 in Auburn Gresham and 72 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm Annette Flurnoy on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
The following is paid programming. The views are not necessarily those of this station. It's time for the Wealth Strategy Show with Khomeini Khan, powered by Optimal Planning Partners.
Khomeini Khan, certified financial planner professional, offers securities through Equitable Advisors, LLC, New York, New York, 212-314-4600. Member FINRA, SIPC, Equitable Financial Advisors in Michigan and Tennessee. Annuity and insurance products offered through Equitable Network, LLC, and does not provide tax or legal advice. Individuals may transact business and or respond to inquiries only in states in which they are properly registered and or licensed. This informational and educational radio segment does not offer or constitute and should not be relied upon as financial, business, or tax advice.
It gets so hard, just trying to figure it out, fight it out, trying to believe God, trying to watch the words in my mouth and stay on the ride. Trouble come and go, even on the mountain high or the valley low. Never let your faith go. Oh, never let your faith go. I've been there before. So confused, don't know which way to go. Stressed out, world so crazy, might as well stay in the house. Fear trying to rise up, got terrorists disguised. They look like us, but we know who we trust. Just when I say that we gon' be alright, we gon' be alright. Tell 'em, we gon' be alright. Alright. Say we gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. You say we gon' be alright.
Welcome back. Khomeini says we're going to be all right, so we're going to just rely on that. We are, as always, on Tuesday mornings at this time, joined by Khomeini Khan. And Khomeini, I have to tell you, I always think about the show, and people on my personal Facebook page, I'll often begin with, let's learn something together today. And I look forward to this segment because we're learning something together. Talk to us, as we always do, about why it's important to have a segment like this on WVON.
Yeah, thank you, Rufus. I appreciate that. Again, good morning to the crew. Good morning to the WVON family. I definitely appreciate everyone listening in for your Tuesday check-in with your money. I think, Rufus, it's important that we get a chance to reiterate why we do this show. And it is about sharing information. But the reason we do it and why it's so critical to share information is because we want to be able to educate the listeners about different strategies and have different discussions about building wealth for ourselves, for our family, and particularly in the community. And so, just like we talk about every single week, we're going to do a deep dive on a different topic in order to bring better understanding around these different strategies of building wealth, and not just building wealth, but actually protecting our wealth, which is just as important. Everything from understanding the stock market to home ownership and how you build equity through home ownership, owning businesses. And today we're actually going to be talking about our protection series. And so all month we've been talking about different ways to protect ourselves and our families. And so we're going to continue that discussion today as well.
You know, May has been Health and Wellness Month, and so today's topic seems to tie right into that.
Perfect.
You've been focused in on insurance. So where are we going today?
So our topic for today is, or our financial tip is, understanding health insurance, all the ins and outs. And we know that it can be quite complicated. And so we're going to have some conversation and break down some of the things people need to understand about your health insurance.
Okay, so this is not fun. This is not exciting. Why did you want to talk about health insurance as a topic?
You know, it's so important to talk about health insurance because people, we get a lot of questions around it. And even though, financial planning isn't, so far as investments and things like that doesn't directly deal with health insurance, but it's an important component of an overall financial picture. And the reason is because, it plays a critical role in just making sure people have access to quality care. And if you think about it from a cost perspective and the dollars that you spend out of your household and paycheck and the dollars that you could potentially spend, it really is an important piece of your overall financial foundation to make sure that you can protect your income. Because as we know, if you don't have if you don't have health insurance, it could be very, very expensive to do it on your own. So it really provides a safety net. And so the technical definition of what health insurance actually is, it's a contract between an insurance company and an individual to pay for your healthcare costs in exchange for a premium. Your premium is what you pay for. So that's really what it is. It's just, you're paying a company to be able to pay for your healthcare costs. And like I said, it's so important because it really provides a safety net to make sure that you can access quality healthcare. And so some of the things we're going to talk about today, I'm going to highlight on healthcare.org. And so you can always refer to healthcare.org to learn a little bit more about health insurance and healthcare in general.
Good stuff and good recommendation. What are some of the benefits of health insurance that people generally don't think about? I mean, we think about insurance broadly, and we just think about health insurance as something that we have. But there are some other parts, particularly as we start to talk about wealth and retaining it. What are some of the things that we don't typically think about?
Yeah, and so obviously we kind of know the obvious things about, why we need to have health insurance. But some of the other things that I want to, kind of touch on. So number one, the financial protection that health insurance provides. Health insurance, is there for, if you have medical emergencies, if you need a surgery, You got chronic illnesses, maybe you got diabetes, maybe you got high blood pressure, the cost of those treatments and prescriptions, and so having health insurance is huge as it relates from being able to protect ourselves financially, because those are tremendous costs. And so that's one of the major pieces of it. And what we know is that, if you don't have that care, that debt can be really crippling. There's a stat that I'll share later with you around that. But that's one of the major reasons. Another reason, obviously, is just so we can have access to healthcare. People who have health insurance are more likely to seek out healthcare as opposed to if you don't. If you don't have insurance, you're less likely to go to the doctor. So that's extremely important. It allows us to be able to access preventative care, which is extremely important. Just going to see the doctor, having those checkups, being proactive, which is preventative care, as opposed to waiting till something happens. Obviously, that's a big benefit. And then peace of mind, just, knowing that you have that insurance, maybe you're not using it every single year, but if you know that you have it, it can give you peace of mind to know that if something happens, I have something in place that's going to take care of me and my family, and particularly being able to protect us financially.
Khomeini, give us some numbers, because I think we kind of see a better picture if you can give us some of the statistics around health insurance.
Yeah, so just a few statistics I'll share with the listeners today. And so first, a really good statistic. So roughly around 91.7, close to 92% of Americans do have health insurance. So that's actually pretty good.
That's good.
The average premium, or the cost of what health insurance is, and most of us get our insurance through employer sponsor plans, meaning that, our job provides that coverage. Of course, we can get it individually, we can get it through the job, or we can get it through the government. But as it relates to the employers, that average premium for a family plan is $22,460. And most of us probably are not paying that much. And that's because your employer is kicking in a lot of that money for you. So the average cost most people will actually pay is $6,100, right? So that difference is what your employer is picking up.
Sounds like a good deal.
It can be a good deal. Obviously, depending on who you work for, those costs really do range from employer to employer, but that's huge, and so being able to have that coverage through your job and not have to pay that full cost of coverage, it definitely is a huge benefit. And then one last stat I'll share is that, medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, with millions of people struggling to pay medical bills. And I know a lot of people can attest to it. You're more likely to file bankruptcy because of medical bills than anything else. And so health insurance is such an important component to make sure that we can manage that, and that does not come into play.
Yeah, anytime you look at the bill that comes in from the hospital, from the doctor, anywhere, and see what's being paid, what it costs versus what you're paying, just looking at the bill may take you to bankruptcy. Even though you're not paying all of that, it's pretty significant what health costs.
It's huge. The same prescription drugs you might get at Walgreens, you're going to pay a lot more when you're in the hospital. Absolutely. So
indeed. Now, you talked about a couple of things. You mentioned employer-sponsored plans. You talked about that. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about what some of the different plans are when it comes to health insurance.
So there are a few different plans I'm going to touch on today as it relates to health insurance. And so you have, number one, you have individual plans. And so you can imagine those are plans, designed where individuals will take out that policy. And so you do have the ability, and a few different ways to do it, to actually personally get a health insurance plan without going through your, say, employer per se. So this is something you can directly buy from individuals and families. I work with a lot of business owners, and so sometimes the business owner will get an individual plan. That's where you see it a lot. Or if you just, if you don't have access to the job. These are plans that are really kind of tailored for individuals, for families, and there are different features and benefits that you can really pick to match what's best for you and your family. Another type of plan you have are employer sponsored plans, which is where many people get their health insurance through their job. And so obviously those are provided by the employers, where you get a discount, like I mentioned earlier, where the employer will pay for part of that health care, and then you pay a certain percentage of it. And then the other one I'll speak on today are supplemental plans. And so supplemental plans, they really provide, they're designed to give you a coverage that provides kind of a gap or extra benefits. Think of things like dental insurance, vision insurance, or maybe some kind of therapeutic insurance. And so those are kind of the three categories that kind of falls into as it relates to the type of plans. Now, under that, you also have what most people are familiar with, which are private plans, right? And so most of us have private plans. And so the private plans, so for example, a PPO plan. Many of us have heard of, oh, do you have an HMO? Do you have a PPO, right? And so what is a PPO actually? And what does it actually stand for?
What the hell are you talking about? I got one of them.
Yeah. So yeah, most people will have one, PPO, HMO, right? And so the PPO is actually, it's called a preferred provider organization. That's what it stands for, preferred provider organization. And so it's a type of plan where you pay less when you use the doctors or the hospital or facility that's in a network, meaning that the insurance company has contracted with these particular physicians or facility to pay lower costs. And so you pay a less cost when you use that. Although that, PPO plans are pretty flexible. You can go outside of the network and still have coverage. It just normally doesn't pay as much. And you actually, one reason people like PPO plans is you don't necessarily have to have a referral to see a specialist. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in going to see a doctor, right?
But the PPO plans, preferred provider, basically means you get to go to your own doctor.
You get to pick out and you get to go to your own doctor. Usually those networks are very large and you have access to more people through a PPO plan. Now, on the flip side of it, you have what's known as an HMO, or also called a health maintenance organization. That's what HMO stands for, a health maintenance organization. And so it's a type of plan where usually the coverage is a bit more limited and you do have to have a primary care physician that you have to pick. And they act like a gatekeeper where, you go see them first and they kind of help direct you if you need to see a specialist or you need to see someone about a certain ailment, they'll give you a referral. And so these plans are really designed to keep costs down. So generally from a premium standpoint, you normally pay less than what you would pay with an HMO plan because you have that gatekeeper designed to keep those costs down. Like you can't just go to a specialist. If you feel something, you have to go to your doctor first, then they give you a referral to a specialist. And, generally they may or may not be able to cover if you're going out of the network, but particularly if you have an emergency, they'll cover that. But if you're going outside of that, you might be on your own. So that's how they keep those costs down.
And then there are a couple of other EPO and POS. What are those?
Yeah, so I'll touch on the POS plan. So some people have heard of POS plan, which is called point of service. A lot of plans actually are POS plans nowadays, point of service. And it just means that, they have a network of doctors you can see and you can generally pay less. So kind of like a PPO plan a little bit, but they do require you to get a referral when you're going to see a specialist. And so it's just some of the different kinds of plans. Like I said, a lot of this is kind of outlined on healthcare.org. So, take a moment and kind of just, go on there to a great site to find information about health insurance and healthcare in general. The goal is just to be able to kind of touch on some of these to give people a little bit more understanding about what they actually have.
So many of these things, as you're explaining this, I'm looking at, I think back to taking the CPA exam. And there was so many concepts that on their own seem convoluted. But when you back up and just think about it, it's pretty much common sense. They put some technical term around. So you prefer provider, you're picking the provider. Health maintenance, it's all pretty commonsensical once you stop and think about it. Don't get distracted.
That's true.
By the complications of the terms. But within all of these plans, there are some components. There are premiums, there are deductibles, there are co-payments. Talk about what those things are and explain that inside of these plans.
Exactly. And these terms can be tongue twisters. A lot of people, they seem so similar, but a lot of people say, well, what is the difference?
What is it?
Right? What is it? I know I'm getting a bill and I see this and I see this. So let's talk about what these actually, some of these definitions and key components as it relates to health insurance include. And so most people know what a premium is. Your premium is essentially what you pay. It's the amount that you pay to the insurer for having that coverage or your employer, right? And so that's what your premium is, just the basic cost to have that plan. Now, deductible, and so obviously many of us have heard of a deductible. And what is a deductible? A deductible is the amount that you have to pay out of your pocket before your coverage actually kicks in. So if you need some kind of procedure, or you need to go to the specialist and see for some kind of purpose, you have a deductible. It could be $500, it could be $5,000. You're responsible for paying that first before the insurance will kick in any dollars. Okay. Then you have a copayment. Your copayment is usually just a fixed fee that you will pay when you go see a doctor. And so maybe when you go see your primary doctor, you go do that checkup, you might have a copay that's $50 or $30, just a flat fee to go get that checkup, right? Then you have co-insurance. And this is kind of the confusing when people, when you think about deductible and copay and so co-insurance is just the percentage that the insurance company will pay for a procedure, for a visit, after your deductible is met. So if your deductible is, for example, $500, you pay that. And if you need a procedure, now they may pay 80% towards that procedure, or 90%, or even in some cases, you got a really good plan, they'll pay 100% towards that procedure. And so your co-insurance is the percentage that they will pay for a particular procedure or any sort of health coverage.
So just know that co-payment, co-insurance means you're paying some and they're paying some.
That's right. That's what you're responsible for.
Co means us.
Co means us, and you throw deductible in there too. That means you too, right?
And premium means you too. So all
That's
these
right.
things, you're coming out of all this, but it also means you're not coming out with everything.
That's true.
And that is the purpose for paying the premium at the top.
Exactly, because you heard that co-insurance amount. You can imagine if they're paying 80 and you're paying 20, you don't want to be the one paying 80, because that's a big difference. And
the reason you have it is because you certainly don't want to be the one paying 100, because then you end up in bankruptcy. Talk about then what these coverage limits are. What is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, and so many policies, depending on the type of policy you have and where you get it from. Some policies will have coverage limits, and so that's the maximum an insurance company would pay for all claims. So they might have a limit on there of $1 million, saying that whatever procedures and everything going on, they might have a limit of 1 million. It might be a limit of 5 million. So these policies, not always, it depends on as it relates to the new healthcare law, whether they fall inside or outside, but some of them will have coverage limits. You also have network providers, which I mentioned earlier. Network provider is just, is that particular doctor or that facility in your plan or out of your plan? If it's in your plan, it's likely going to cost less for you versus being out of that plan. So you always want to do a little research to make sure that the people you're going to see are included in your insurance network, because you'll save a lot of money generally. And then last but not least, there's something called exclusions, in which some plans will exclude certain types of coverage or benefits, or particularly some kind of pre-existing conditions, depending on the policy. So it's important to make sure you kind of understand the ins and outs of these policies, simply because they have a lot of ins and outs to them.
Look, that's why it's good you're doing this, and it's frustrating for everybody whenever we get into these things. So it's trying to figure out, who is the doctor that I go to? Are they in the network?
Yep.
What is it going to cost? Is it part of a PPO or an HMO? And what all these things mean. Typically, once you get it down first, then you're good until you need some specialized coverage.
That's true. And I always tell people, don't be afraid to reach out to your insurance company. If you got a procedure or something coming up, reach out to your insurance company, because they'll be in the best position to guide you on, who's in the network, who's not. They can even give you an estimate of what it'll cost to have a procedure. I remember I had to have an MRI some time ago, and I called my insurance company, and they gave me 3 places, and they told me the cost of 3 different places. It was the exact same procedure. One place $500, one place $1,000, one place $1,500 for the exact same procedure. So don't be afraid to reach out to your insurance company, because they can really kind of help you save money, because ultimately that's coming out of your pocket.
Right.
And so,
Right. Important in all those things, though, is that you want the best you can get, because we're talking about your body. We're talking about you or your loved one. We're not talking about what kind of tires you get on your car. It's a very, very different thing. Talk about some of the challenges as it relates to these plans, and give some suggestions about how people can help choose the right health insurance plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, obviously, we're very familiar with all the challenges around healthcare. Obviously, one of the biggest ones is the cost. Premiums can be, very expensive. Obviously, I kind of gave you an example of what that can cost, especially for a comprehensive plan. So, cost is always a challenge, and trying to find coverage that's affordable. Another challenge as it relates to health insurance and private healthcare in particular are the exclusions, and just making sure you really understand those exclusions in your policy, because maybe you thought you were going to have coverage for one thing, but that policy excluded that particular benefit. So making sure you understand that. Of course, policies can be complex, so understanding the details and the ins and outs, and then making sure that you're not overinsured per se. That's a very rare thing, but it is possible where you might have three coverages you're paying for, and you may not need to pay for all of those different coverages. And so that's just some insights as it relates to being able to navigate health insurance overall.
Just know it's there. Insights, high level. You know where to go to find out some help with this. I'll give you the specifics, but before that, what are we doing next week?
All right. So next week we got our hot topics conversation.
Okay.
And so, every week once a month, actually, we listen to questions from the listeners, and we start to answer those on the air and just talk about other topics in the news. And so next week we got our hot topics discussion. So I'm excited about that.
Fantastic. And folks, if there are some things that we haven't covered, if you've got a hot topic that needs to get there, if you've got questions about health insurance, whatever we've covered, whatever you think we might cover, whatever we haven't covered, give them a call. Khomeini can be reached by phone or by text, 630-575-5046. That's 630-575-5046. Or go to the website, wvonwealthshow.com. That's wvonwealthshow.com. Fill out the contact card or complete the Discovery Financial Survey to get started today. Khomeini?
Thank you for that, Rufus. I want to tell people, obviously these different insurances, they can be complex. And so don't be afraid to reach out to a consultant, your insurance company, of course, a financial advisor. That's why we're here, to be able to help and guide you through these different type of plans and make sure you got the right coverage for you and your family. So again, encourage you to reach out. You have questions, concerns. We do complimentary consultations to be able to help you and your family. 630-575-5046. And again, thank you, Rufus. And I look forward to talking to the listeners again next week. Everyone have a great day.
Indeed. 630-575-5046, wvonwealthshow.com. Equitable Advisors, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC, a broker-dealer. Equitable Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Khomeini, appreciate you. Appreciate you all for being with us today. Certainly grateful to the mayor and grateful to the professor for coming on to share some real important insights with us. And I always appreciate you for all the information you give us. Although we didn't get a chance to talk today, we'll pick it up when we can. It's just so much going on. And Titus, appreciate you. Welcome back, and stay away from those team takeovers. Good to have you back in the studio, keeping all these things together with that cool dude behind you. I guess it's going to be wild in the next hour or so. And as, ladies and gentlemen, I'll ask you, as I always do, as you go through the course of the day, you will come across people who are dealing with things that you know absolutely nothing about. So please be kind, always. And with that, Annette, tell us what's in the headlines, and T-Dub, take us home.
Another warm day in Chicago as temperatures climb well into the 80s on this Tuesday, May 26, 2026. I'm Annette Flanoyan in the headlines. Just ahead of his trip to Rome to meet with the Pope, Mayor Brandon Johnson spoke exclusively on WVON this morning. Some of the topics: Memorial Day weekend violence and teen gatherings. Later this morning, the 18-year-old suspect accused of driving a car that plowed into